Who told you that? Who told you that you couldn't? Who told you that you weren't smart enough? Who told you that you weren't talented enough? Who told you that your dream was too big and it couldn't ever be accomplished? Who told you that you needed to be a little bit more realistic? Who told you that you were too young, too old, too inexperienced, too far behind? Who told you that you couldn't start over? And here's another question. Who told you that you could? Who's the first person who looked at you and said, I believe in you? Who was that person who saw something in you before you were able to see it in yourself? Because when we realize it or not, there are voices that follow us. Some of those voices encourage us, some of them discourage us, some of them being and belonging to the people that we love, that we hold dear. Some belong to the people who we trusted and hurt us. And sometimes the hardest voice is to deal, the hardest voice to deal with isn't by someone else. It is the voice that we develop inside our own heads. So today, I want you to ask yourself one simple question. Who told you that? And perhaps more importantly, do you still believe them? Welcome back to Outreach with Reggie. And yes, I said welcome back. Not only is this the start of a new season, I know last season was short, but we have crossed the official threshold for those who were here before the technology collapse. So if you remember, in an alternate reality where we started, we officially crossed the threshold of 1 year in podcasting. With that being said, if you have been listening for a while, you may have noticed that things have been quiet. The microphone has been quiet. The feed has been quiet. You haven't been getting those notifications from Outreach with Reggie. So the conversations have been less, but quiet doesn't always mean finished. Sometimes quiet means you're preparing. It means you're growing. You're figuring out what's coming next. And sometimes you simply need to step away. I did get busier, I'm doing things to help strengthen what we do here within the conversations we have and just tapping deeper into the conversations that we're meant to have here. But the mission doesn't necessarily disappear just because the microphone does. So I say all that to say, welcome to season 4 of Outreach with Reggie. It is a new season, a new chapter, and hopefully a deeper conversation to be had, because OWR has never just been about talking. It is about people. It's about stories. It's about purpose. It's about the things that happen underneath the surface of our lives. It is about asking questions that make us stop and think about what we are entering in within every single room that we walk into, that we are an active participant in these spaces. And today's question is one that I think every single person listening can wrestle with at times. And that is, who told you that? So with that being said, let's get into the first segment of that, which is, where do your dreams, ambitions, and goals all come from? Let's start simple. One of the very things I carry with my high school coach, is the KISS method. Although it has a different meaning now than it did then, the message is still the same. Keep it simple, stupid is what he always would say. But I've learned the definition of it all changed to keep it short and sweet. So we'll start short and sweet. What are your goals? Not someone else's goals, not somebody who push these ideas and say, hey, you should do this. This is a great idea. There's a formula for this. What are your goals? Yours. What are the things that you've told yourself you're going to accomplish in this life? Maybe it's graduating from school. Maybe it's starting your own business. Maybe it's getting healthier, writing a book, buying a house, practicing a lot more healthier habits. Maybe you want to travel this world and see what the world has to offer. Maybe it's establishing or having your own family, repairing a relationship, getting out of debt. Maybe it's starting a creative journey. Maybe it's just simply becoming more comfortable seeing the person in the mirror. Not every goal has to be this big, spontaneous, illustrious thing for you to obtain. Because we have this tendency to believe that goals have to be this massive, life-changing achievement. But sometimes the goal is getting out of bed. Sometimes the goal is making the phone call you've been avoiding. Sometimes the goal is applying for the opportunity, writing one page, taking one step. And sometimes that one step is most important, could be the most important step you've taken all year. But here's what I want you to think about. Where did that goal come from? Why do you want to do it? What inspired it? Other things I want you to think about is who influenced you? What experience, moment in time, what did you see? What did you have that made you say, I want to do that? Because through all of these things, we realize our dreams could come from a myriad of things, but it's the seed that plants these dreams to happen. And a lot of them come from inspiration, pain, curiosity of life, or they may see a formula that's already been created by the trailblazers of the world or by the people that you may find on your everyday. And through all of that, it may inspire you to say, I can do that too. I remember back 1 year ago when I created this podcast after putting it off for at least about 4 years, I would tell people I'm going to do it because my inspirations came from people like LeVar Burton, who was the host for Reading Rainbow, who gave a significant insight as to why literature is important. And at the end of each show, he would give a book to read. Another person was Mr. Rogers, another inspiration of mine. His kindness, his daringness to address issues within children programming that not too many people were willing to address in the way that he did. Some were kind, but others were thought-provoking. But those are just examples of what made me want to do something like this. And then just going back into what we talk about regarding simplifying it, make it simple. And I'm not saying simplifying as in minimizing your goals, but no, really take time to be mindful of each step you take. Because in the spirit of mindfulness, not too many people get a chance to wake up to a new day, to try again, Maybe someone's bedridden, so they can't take that step out of bed. Some have arthritis, so they may not be able to write again or type again. Sometimes the goal That goal of making that phone call to a significant loved one you feel like you've lost, a relationship that died, or opportunity you feel like you've missed. Sometimes you never know when it's going to be that last time to have that opportunity. But I don't say these things to offend nor inflict, but I say these things to poke at the space of mindfulness to be had. So as we move forward, we're going to talk about the people who spoke into your life. As we've had inspirations from afar, we have to be as intentional for the ones that we have close. Who spoke these things into you? Who made you believe that you can be president or leader of your community, or a leader within yourself? Think about the people who sparked that motivation, that goal when you were younger. A teacher, a coach, a family member, mentor, friend, youth leader, neighbor, someone at church, someone at work, or somebody who simply took time to create a space for you to be heard. Because sometimes one conversation can stay with you for decades. And that's the power of words spoken and words unspoken, right? Even it's the simplest of a quote. These are things that can stay with you, and based on the the processes of these words, the translation of it could be generational. And what do I mean by that? What do you mean by that, Reggie? What I mean is when you take these words and the weight of these words, I believe in you, I care about you. You never know what that does to somebody's day. We underestimate words because they're small. You can say one sentence in 5 seconds and somebody can remember it for 50 years. Think about that. 5 seconds, one sentence, and it could be a part of someone's identity. As kindness can be found in that one sentence, unkindness can be found in it too. Think about the power of telling somebody that they're not good enough or they'll never make it. And that's not for people like you. That's for people like them. Why would you even try? In the same breath, saying, I believe in you. You can do this. Don't give up. I'm proud of you. You have something special here. You're very intelligent. It creates the same human ability, words, but completely different impact. That's why we have to be careful with what we say to people, because you may forget what you said. They may forget everything that you said. They may not, but they remember how they felt. And that's why we have to examine the words we accept about ourselves too. Because sometimes somebody told us something once, and we have spent years repeating it to ourselves. And because of that, that person has probably moved on, probably went and did God knows what. But to be captured, to be frozen in a sentence will leave you to a life sentence, trying to figure out what they meant. And if I can welcome an idea, maybe that person was you. Maybe you've probably said something about yourself because of an action, embarrassment, or even just a matter of not completely believing in a thing or something going completely wrong, that you've told yourself you're never going to do it again, that you're unqualified to do it again. What would come of any good of it if someone like me did it? Well, I'm here to tell you the words that you tell yourself to, those matter as much as the value that you put on others that speak to you. But what happens when the people you trust don't believe in you? And here's when we talk about something uncomfortable. What happens when people you trust don't believe in you? What happens when the person you expected, a friend, a family member, someone that you've gotten super close and familiar with, tells you that your dream isn't realistic? When your friend doesn't understand, when your family doesn't support the decision? What happens when the people you thought would stand beside you are the very people questioning whether you should even move forward or is even something to even entertain? And that hurts. We don't have to pretend like it doesn't. This is a space where we can allow it to. Support matters. Community, friendship, mentors, trusted adults matter because no one's meant to do life alone. No one's meant to do life completely alone. And when you don't have that support system, it could be incredibly difficult. But here's something I've learned over time. Someone else's inability to see your vision does not automatically mean the vision is wrong. But, and this is important, you also have to be willing to listen. Because not every person who challenges you is trying to destroy you. Let me say that again. Not every person who challenges you is trying to destroy you. Sometimes criticism is actually an opportunity to grow. So, how do you tell the difference? Ask yourself, is this person helping me become better? Or are they trying to convince me to become smaller, to shrink, to abandon myself to appease what is within the masses? Is the criticism specific? Can I learn something from it? And is there evidence behind what they're saying? Are they speaking from experience? Are they speaking because they care, or are they simply projecting their own fears, failures, and doubts on me? Because sometimes people will tell you that something's impossible because they tried it and failed. Sometimes they'll tell you that you shouldn't do something because they're afraid you'll fail. And sometimes they don't want you to change because your growth changes the relationship that you have with them. And sometimes they're simply right about something you need to improve. Wisdom is learning the difference between the two. Who's for you, who's not for you. Speaking from fear, speaking from experience. So whose voice are you listening to between that? The weight of that. Let's get real personal. Let's get super personal. When you think about your goals, whose voice do you hear? And whose voice holds more weight? Do you hear your own voice, or do you hear your parents' voice? Do you hear your friend's voice? Do you hear your former partner, your teacher, your boss, your mentor, someone from your past, someone who told you that you couldn't? Before you go on and do this wonderful thing in the world, no matter what it is, do you go? Do you trust in the things that you hold value? Do you pray? Do you take into account these things on your own? Do you go seek confirmation from someone else? Like, yeah, I know I can do this, but let me see what my friend thinks about this and see if I'm out of the way. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But these are things with mindfulness that you have to take into account. And here's an even harder question. And the means of trying to do things, move, go, is the root of this. The motivation behind it is to prove them wrong or to prove yourself right. Because if your entire motivation, if the root behind every move that you make to prove someone else wrong, they still have power over you. You might accomplish everything that you've ever wanted to in this world and still be emotionally tied to the person that you were trying to defeat. That's not freedom. That's not free. There's a difference between I'll prove you wrong and I'll prove myself right. The first one's about them. Everything that they said that they probably forgotten years ago. The second one's about you. That person you see in the mirror. That person that you spend the most time with. And if you haven't, we'll talk about that too. But I think that's where we have to go. Make it personal. Not for your parents, not for your friends, not for social media, not to make someone else jealous or regret leaving or whoever doubted you in your life. Do it because you believe you believe that you are becoming the person that you're supposed to become. And that everything you're chasing is meant for you because it's for you. And while you find this motivation, I call it the flame, you have to examine that flame. Think about a flame real quick. A flame starts with a spark, a tiny ignition, and suddenly there's a fire. That's how passion can work. Something catches your attention. You become curious. Curious becomes interest. Interest becomes passion. Passion becomes action. But here's the thing about fire. You have to learn how to control it. Because passion without discipline can destroy you. You could become incredibly passionate about something and still burn yourself out. You can work nonstop. You can chase achievement endlessly. You can become obsessed with the next accomplishment, right? How much money can I make? Can I make more money? Can I make more money? When you pour into achievements, right? All right, I got one award. How can I move to the next one? Can I move to the next one? If it's houses, cars, material things, even within friendships or relationships, right? How much love can I give to something, someone, some goal without completely losing myself in the process? Because within chasing, and if you completely stay on go, you will eventually have nothing left. And eventually burn yourself out. So don't just ask, what am I passionate about? Ask, how do I protect my passion? How do I control the flames? Right? How do I give it time, discipline, rest? How do I keep the flame alive without letting it consume me? Because sometimes the goal isn't to make the biggest fire. Sometimes it's simply to keep the flame burning. Now, think about a plant. When you look at a tree, you see what's above the ground. The trunk, the branches, the leaves, the fruit, even the little birds that make a nest on this tree. And they create life and have families. That's there. But underneath the ground is an entire system that you don't see. The roots. And those roots determine how stable that tree is. That's why I love the idea of being rooted and grounded, because everybody wants the visibility of it, the visible part. Everybody wants the fruit, the title, the degree, the money, the accolade, the recognition, right? The followers for those who care about that, the accomplishment, but no one sees the roots. Nobody sees the nights you stayed up, the failures, the rejection, the times you had to look in the mirror or maybe did not look in the mirror. When you had to question yourself, no one sees the discipline that went into the things that you are chasing. The prayers, the countless prayers at night, crying your eyes out because you did not know how to get through to the next part. Nobody sees the small decisions, the no, I can't do that right now. I have to do this. And I'll get to that later. And later never comes. That's the root system of it all. So as you're going to be asking yourself a lot of questions, hopefully, I want you to ask yourself, what are you rooted in? Are you rooted in your values, your faith, your family, your purpose, character, community, principles? Are you rooted in any of these things? Because if your foundation is weak, success can become very dangerous and can be the very same thing that will kill you. You could achieve everything and still not know who you are. So build the roots. I remember, and maybe I'm not, maybe I'm making this up, maybe I'm not, but I feel like I've heard this somewhere. But pretty much the simple quote is, I can't live here because I'll die here. I can't live in this part of success because there's more here, there's more there for me. But if I live here, if I live for the applause, I will die by the applause. But that leads me to my next point is how we identify what success even is before we chase these things, right? Before we allow others to project what success is to us. We have to define success ourselves before we even get to what success is in total. So let's talk about success because I think we have a very distorted understanding of it. We see the finished product, but we don't see the process. We see the person standing on stage, but we don't see the thousands of hours before they got there. We see the business, but we do not see the failed ideas before we were able to get it right. We see the degree, but we don't see the night studying. We see the transformation, but we do not see the ordinary decisions that created it. So that's why I want to introduce the idea of atomic success. Atomic success. Think about an atom. It's incredibly small, but it's fundamental. So, what if we started celebrating the tiny evidence that we are moving forward? You do not have to change your entire life today. But what if we took one small thing and said that's going to be the thing that I'm going to change to move towards success? Because you have to change something. One decision, one action, conversation, page, workout, application, opportunity, one day of discipline, one day of choosing differently. That is atomic success. You may be familiar with this as atomic habits, and that's okay too. But if you can check off one small thing, one small dosage of good each day, then that's good. And if you can build off these things, that'll be amazing too. And don't misunderstand me either. I'm not saying to make your dreams smaller. I'm saying recognize the small things that build the dream. Because the mountain is climbed one step at a time. And there are peaks and valleys to what we deem as success. But how high is your peak? Because that's what defines, and that's what differentiates between Mount Everest and, for my Georgia listeners, Stone Mountain. How important is the journey? Because we live in a world that wants everything immediately. I mean, thank God for a microwave, right? But yes, we live in a time where everything is instant. Instant messaging, instant entertainment, instant food, instant results, instant recognition, and that can create a dangerous expectation. If I'm not seeing results from this immediately, this must not be working. But that's not how most meaningful things work. Because a seed doesn't become a tree overnight. It has to be watered. It has to require sun, time to grow those roots that we talk about. A seed doesn't become a tree overnight. A skill does not become mastery overnight. A relationship doesn't become strong overnight. Careers don't become successful. Your character does not develop, and neither does your dreams. You have to become comfortable with the process. You have to become comfortable with not knowing exactly when the results are coming. That's where patience becomes a skill, not just a personality trait, a skill. To have faith, patience, develop endurance. You learn how to continue even when the reward has not arrived yet. Imagine if you were told when you were going to succeed in anything that you do, right? Imagine if I told you, hey, man, you're going to win an Oscar in 7 days. Would there be any motivation to sharpen your iron, sharpen your skill within those 7 days? Would there be more reasons to rest knowing that it's on the way within these 7 days? You have to become rooted. And that's the process of it all. But as we talk about defining success and in walking into atomic success, right? Or even just learning how to be patient, getting away out of the instant gratification of it all. You have to realize that success is not linear at all. Success is not a straight line. Sometimes you move forward, sometimes you take a strong stopping point, and sometimes you even move back a few steps. It's not failure. And sometimes you even may change directions. And even, here's why I poke at the capacity of my listeners right now, sometimes the thing that you thought you wanted isn't the thing that you actually need. Or if you become impatient, you may even ask, okay, what's next? And that's completely normal. We have to stop treating every setback as proof that we're failing. Maybe it's just another learning lesson. And for those who are listening, I'm tired of the learning lesson. Well, that's okay. As I said before, you need to define what success is for you. Because what does success actually mean? No matter if it's atomic or as big as whatever the biggest thing in the world is. Is it money, recognition? Is it freedom, peace? Is it how much you've impacted people, helping people, having time? Or is it being present with your family, being present to the things that actually matter and that money, no awards can garnish you to have within access of? Is it waking up and actually liking the person you see in the mirror? You have to define these things. Because if you don't define success for yourself, somebody else will define it for you. And by the end of your life, you've probably realized that you chased your entire life for success deemed by somebody else. And you won't like it because it never probably mattered to you. So how do we make it personal? How do we define success? How do we define atomic success? How do we chase the things that we want? And how do we make it personal? Well, you have to first look in the mirror. And I don't mean look at your clothes. I don't mean look at your hair, your body, the aesthetics. I mean something on the inside, something that physical mirror can't show you. Something deeper. What do you see? Do you see someone who's capable, who's still becoming, who probably made a few mistakes here and there, who's probably went through a heap of things, but has survived those things? Do you see someone who still has dreams? Do you see someone who deserves another chance? And do you see someone who can learn from their mistakes and learn from their successes too? Or do you see every single thing that is wrong? Because the way you see yourself, both inside and out, affects the way that you move through the world. I remember listening to this quote by one of my favorite novelists and authors, James Baldwin. And he had this thing where he said, the ugly that you see in this world, the pain, that monster you see in this world, you can be that monster. You can be that ugly. You can be that pain. The way you see yourself affects the way you move through the world. And sometimes we need to stop waiting for someone else to tell us who we are, to confirm the things that you already know. You have to learn how to speak life into yourself, not from a place of arrogance, not pretending that you're perfect, not ignoring your weaknesses, but saying, I can learn, I can grow, I can improve, and I can try again. I can ask for help. I can become better. I can do hard things. And I'm capable of it all. Which leads me directly to my next point. Do you believe before it's confirmed? Because here's something else. You have to believe before anybody else confirms it. And that's a difficult thing to ask of yourself. Because uncertainty has never provided stability. Because it's supremely uncomfortable. You want proof. You want to know that, hey, what I'm doing is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing, and everything I'm doing is completely solidified. You want the email, the acceptance letter. You want the contract, the money, the opportunity. You want the person to say yes. You want the results. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a very human part of you. But sometimes you have to keep going before the confirmation ever arrives. Because that's where faith comes in. Faith doesn't faith does not mean pretending uncertainty does not exist. It means uncertainty does not automatically get to make your decisions. You could acknowledge, I don't know exactly what's going to happen here, and still say, I'm going to take the next step. Because that's courage. That's faith. And that's how we stay focused. That's when we talk about not only igniting the flame, igniting that fire, but controlling the flames. That's where passion, controlled passion, discipline, and passion, that's a good recipe right there. But let's talk about the cost of the dreams that we're chasing. Because there's a cost. There's a cost to everything. Dreams cost something. They cost time, energy, they cost comfort. Sometimes they cost money. Saying no to things that you really, really want right now. Sometimes it requires you to wake up early. They require you to stay up late. Sometimes they require you to learn something you're bad at. It may take a lot longer to get decent at. And they require you to walk away from distractions. But sometimes they require you to let go of the version of yourself that was comfortable staying where you were at that time. So ask, what is your dream going to cost you? And then ask the other question, what will it cost if you never pursued it? Because there are two prices. I actually want to throw in another one. What is your dream going to cost you? What will it cost you if you never pursued it? And can you afford to take the cost right now? The price of pursuing the dream and the price of never trying. You can only decide. Only you can decide which one you're willing to pay. Because the third one, can you afford it? Well, the second question pretty much answers the third. So I'll let you decide that. But only you can decide which one you're willing to pay. The pursuit or the stability? Do you want to be smart or do you want to be brave within these decisions? And if you're still uncertain about how to get through, is believing in yourself. I want to correct that because that gets repeated so many times. You just got to believe in yourself. And I know we just went through that in a few segments ago. Making it personal. Yes. Make your dreams personal. Believe in yourself. See it before you get the confirmation. But also, it does not mean doing it alone. The belief of doing it results in you. The pursuit is dictated by you. But that does not mean do it by yourself, because you can't do everything alone. Life is not meant to be done alone, and you shouldn't have to do it alone. Every successful person, every single successful person that you can ever think about in this current time, even those from before, has not done it alone. Somebody has taught them the skills, the traits, the requirements. They shaped and molded a belief in them to impute knowledge passed on from generation to generation of work ethic into them. Somebody taught them, encouraged them, opened the door, gave them information, challenged them, and gave them an opportunity because they believed in them. Somebody invested into them. So build your support system. Find people who will tell you the truth, who will celebrate you, and it's not afraid to challenge you. Find people who would tell you when you are wrong. Find people who don't need you to fail so they can feel better about themselves, and be that person for someone else. And also, which leads me to as we're getting closer to the end of this episode, become that for others. What inspires you? And who are you inspiring? Because eventually, you have to become the person you once needed. It's the circle of life. Everyone's success is different. And what one will deem success here, someone may just be trying to survive and pass through. If you need an encouragement, someone to listen, somebody to believe in you, someone to open a door, there's another you that exists. And as you go through life and as you chase these things and as you are achieving the atomic success that you have or are doing, there's another you that exists that needs the very same things that you needed back then when you were trying to figure it out. There's another you that exists. But be the reflection of the world that you want to participate in. Be sure when you achieve a momentum amount of success that you've defined, be sure to reach back. And it doesn't mean you have to cater or support in a way that's costing you anything. No. There's nothing costly about imputing knowledge into someone in need that you may recognize, like I was there. And I can tell you all of the things that I did. Don't just complain about what the world lacks. And don't complain about when you see someone in hardship. Be the reflection, the inspiration. Be the very same thing that you feel like there's a lack of. Ask yourself, what can I contribute? That's where outreach comes in. Community comes in. Purpose comes in. And then as we talk about when we get to that point of for being that for those who we may not know that are watching us, for those who will come across again and see others who did not initially believe that we would achieve the things that we have, you have to forgive them. Because I know it hurts when someone doesn't believe in you, doesn't believe in the goals that you set, the things that you dreamed about, the things you aim to accomplish. It hurts. It would be a foolish thing not to tap into that. And some people are still carrying anger towards someone who doubted them years, decades ago. And I understand why. We talk about the weight of words, right? Words hurt. Rejection hurts. Being underestimated works, but you don't. Being underestimated hurts, is what I meant to say. But you don't have to carry that forever. You can forgive somebody without pretending that they were right. You can forgive somebody without allowing them back into your life. You can forgive somebody without forgetting what happened. Sometimes forgiveness simply means you don't get to control me, my emotions, my success, and where I'm going anymore. And maybe one day you'll realize they didn't believe in you, and that's okay. You don't need permission anymore, and you don't need theirs. So now, what will it take? What will it take to actually achieve what you say you want in this life? Not the motivational answer, the real answer. What skills do you need? Habits, sacrifices, relationships, resources, acknowledgments, discipline, patience, what support, right? What do you actually need? What is the answer? What do you need to stop doing, start doing, and most importantly, what version of you needs to exist for this dream to become possible? What exactly is it? Because sometimes the goal isn't everything you need to change. Or sometimes the goal isn't the thing you need to change. Sometimes you are the thing that needs to grow. But what will it take? That's for you to decide. Start with you. Make it personal. Don't do it alone, but make sure you're making it personal to you. What things do you have already? Are you completely alone in the process? Or is there a need to go a little deeper? Test your relationships. Test where you are. Be honest about your laziness in areas, but also be transparent about where you are regarding making it simple. Before we close this episode, I want to talk about something that I think gets overlooked. As we talk about making it, or what will it take? And as we talk about chasing success, the weight of words of who told us and what inspired us, right? As you achieve the things that you aim for, and you will achieve them, I'll speak that over your life right now. You will achieve these things that you are passionate about achieving. Allow there to be space for gratitude. Become familiar with the language of gratitude. Not just I'm grateful because everything worked out. I'm grateful, but I'm grateful that I'm still here. I'm grateful that I have another 24 hours to do the things that I needed to do. I'm grateful I have another opportunity. I'm grateful I'm learning something or have learned something. I'm grateful for the people who helped me, who challenged me, for the doors that opened. I'm grateful for the doors that closed. I'm grateful for what I'm becoming and who I'm becoming in the process. Because gratitude changes the way that you experience the journey. You don't have to wait until you arrive at the destination. You appreciate the road that's already there. The road that you're paving, if it hasn't already been paved already. You can be grateful while you're becoming too. So as we wrap up today's episode, let's come back to that question. Who told you that? Who told you that you couldn't? Who told you that you weren't enough? Who told you that your dream was unrealistic? Who told you that you're behind? Who told you that you don't belong, that you have to have every single thing figured out? Who told you that you can't start again? And then, who told you that you could? Maybe someone did. Maybe someone believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself. Maybe somebody planted a seed and gave you a word that you never forgot. Hold on to those words, but eventually you have to become the voice that believes in you. Because no one else can live your life for you. No one else can take your steps, build your foundation, and protect your flame. And they can't decide what success means to you because no one else can become you but you. So look into the mirror and ask yourself, do I believe in me? Not because everyone else does, not because I received confirmation, not because everything is guaranteed, but because I know that I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to work, I'm willing to grow, I'm willing to ask for help, I'm willing to fail, and try again, and be patient because I'm being rooted. And I have to keep the flame, and I'm willing to take the next step because maybe you haven't accomplished everything you've wanted to just yet, and that's okay. But some goals are still unfinished, and that's okay too. Because you don't have to know exactly how it's going to happen, and that's okay. And you don't have to know every step. You just have to be willing to take the next one. And remember, success isn't always loud. Sometimes success is getting back up and trying again, choosing yourself or asking for help. With making one tiny decision that no one else will ever see. That is atomic success, that is foundation, that is the root system, and that is the flame that you ignite on this journey, and that may be the light to help somebody else get out of that dark place. And with that, welcome to season 4 of Outreach with Reggie. If this is your first time listening, thank you for being here. If you've been here before, thank you for coming on back. Seriously, there is something powerful about to return. The returning to a dream, a purpose, to a conversation, returning to something that you thought might have been over. Sometimes a pause is part of the story, and maybe that's where I want to leave you today. Don't be afraid of the pause. Don't be afraid of starting again, and don't be afraid of being unfinished. And don't let someone else's voice become the permanent narrator of your life. So next time you hear, you can't stop, take a breath, and ask, who told you that? And then ask, do I believe him? And if the answer is no, take the next step. I'm Reggie. This is Outreach with Reggie. Season 4 is officially here, and I'll see you next time. Until then, stay rooted and protect your flame. Take care.